Alright, everyone, I'm going to start this, see
This
how
is a
long it
call
stays
for an
up. Hope you
uprising.
guys
Welcome
enjoy.
to today's show.
Best I've
I
got
am on
for
an
you.
internal microphone, so that is why my voice might sound a little bit different. Plus, I feel like every time of this time, I feel like every couple of weeks, I get some type of a head cold, but that's because of the weather conditions of where I live. And then if I go visit family and stuff, the weather's a lot different. So regardless, please ignore that. It's a bird, it's a plane, or is it Project Bluebeam? As many of you have probably seen this footage already, that is supposedly from SpaceX Falcon 9 launch, which offered a dramatic show over Los Angeles Friday night. People going crazy. Oh, wow, look at this. Isn't it so cool, people are saying? This is just the beginning. Because if you're somebody who studied Project Bluebeam, and you're somebody who studies NASA, and you know the lies and the deceit of NASA that is NASA, it doesn't take much discernment to see that this was some type of holographic image in the sky. At least in my opinion, it was. Now, I know a lot of people out there who are quote-unquote flat earthers are going crazy over this stuff from what I've read and what I've seen. But it is kind of funny in a sense, right? Because if they're shooting a rocket up, how come the rocket, isn't it supposed to go straight up into the sky, right, into space? Or is it supposed to fly like an airplane from left to right? Because the thing is just flying across the sky from left to right. And where did it land? Somewhere in the ocean? Did they want to tell anyone that? Let me read a little bit about what this was for those of you who don't know. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base at 5:27 p.m. It was carrying 10 satellites, they claim, to low Earth orbit. The satellites will be part of a constellation operated by Iridium Communications. All 10 satellites successfully deployed, with the last one deploying about 1 hour and 12 minutes after liftoff. The rocket's first stage was previously used during a mission in June. Officials had warned the launch could be seen across Southern California and beyond, but on the day before the holiday weekend, the streaks of light against the blue sky were something to behold. I mean, look how they talk about this, like this is some type of wonderful thing. Ooh, ah. I mean, can you imagine when Project Bluebeam actually comes to pass? Right? Like we're sitting here going, oh, it's going to wake people up. They're going to be like, whoa, look at this. People who have been talking about this are right, or oh, this is something's going on here. No, they're just going to ooh and ah over it, just like most people who recorded this were oohing and ahhing over what it looked like. Okay? And to me, it looked like nothing more than a test run for Project Bluebeam. That's my take on the subject. So many people pull over their cars to take photos and videos of the site. The Los Angeles Fire Department put out an advisory saying the mysterious lights in the sky was the Vandenberg launch. I mean, and you can see these videos here. You see the smoke, and then you see this big thing. I mean, I've heard people say it looks like a whale. I've heard people say it looks like, you know, all right, I won't say because there's kids watching, but you can look at this thing, and it looks so abnormal. To me, this looks like what we can expect to see from Operation Bluebeam, where they, remember, now, Project Bluebeam, I should say, it's not just going to be, you know, these images like they've claimed of Messiah in the sky. They're also going to be images of, you know, UFOs and spacecrafts and things like that. This right here looks completely like what you can expect. A bunch of things that look like this. Obviously, it won't look exactly like this, or then people might get suspicious. But with this type of clear, crisp imagery, flying low in the sky like that, that's what I would expect it to look like. And this is SpaceX's 18th launch of the year, they claim. And I mean, people are just posting about it all over the place. I'm not talking about truthers. I'm talking about people out there who think that this is some type of an incredible ordeal, you know, and then you get these, like, just, you know, this really weird message from Elon Musk, who is the, you know, the guy behind SpaceX, saying nuclear alien UFO from North Korea. So he's poking fun at, you know, conspiracy theorists and people out there who are clearly aware of, you know, the deception of NASA, the deception of SpaceX, of Project Bluebeam, who are aware of what the plans of the New World Order are. So he's, you know, poking fun, saying alien UFO, and then mixing in North Korea with the tension for World War III. I mean, it's unbelievable how obnoxious these people are and in our faces. But like I said, they use humor all the time to deflect attention off of this stuff. So take a look at some of these images and just look how crisp they are. And then look at the response from people. Instead of being disturbed, instead of, saying there's something not right about this, people were just amazed. They're like, we're going to go to Mars and we're going to go to Pluto in the future. And we're going to discover new life. And ooh and ah, this thing that's flying from left to right across the sky instead of what's, you would think it's supposed to go straight up, right? And then like just the fact that the people are basking in this thing, like this is going to be the beginning of some amazing, SpaceX is, and we know SpaceX is going to continue to roll out this demonic technology and all this crap, and this, this illusion of they have and NASA has that we go to space and oh yeah, and all this stuff's going on, and let's keep advancing in technology. This is all part of the New World Order's plan, but don't think Project Bluebeam has been dropped, because it hasn't been. I just did a video the other day, right? Is that a coincidence that 2 or 3 days before this, that they released, Pentagon information about UFOs that were picked up by pilots? I mean, some of the most stupid, ridiculous footage you could possibly see, and they're like, look at it, that's not normal, that's UFO. Oh, then the Pentagon comes out and continues to give people what they want to hear, which is this fake deception that aliens exist. Well, we know that demons exist, aliens don't. And they're trying to convince you that there's life on other planets and all this stuff. So that comes out, and then days later, they're rolling out this Falcon 9 launch and putting on, deliberately putting on a show, because they could really have run this thing over the ocean somewhere or wherever. They deliberately ran it over Southern California. They wanted people to film it. They wanted people to take pictures. They wanted people to just be like, in such awe of how beautiful it looked, and oh, amazing, because that's what they're going to do with Project Bluebeam. It's going to be a show, right? And like I said, it's all psychological. People aren't going to be afraid of this stuff, just like the Mark of the Beast. Everybody's like, oh, when the Mark of the Beast comes, then everyone's going to wake up because we've been told, and they're going to be afraid. They're not going to want to go to hell. They're going to embrace all this stuff. They are indoctrinated with a system that promotes and embellishes and loves all of this type of crap, the technology and the advancement. They're told that, oh, it's an we're the smartest race, and I mean, like, we couldn't be a dumber society as a whole. This is the dumbest time period to be alive with the dumbest human beings, because of the mind control, because of the psychological operation that is being done to everyone. And remember, when I talk about this stuff, all you have to do is read the countless articles that they push out there on these topics. You're not just looking for the same narrative as far as, oh, they're pushing the gay agenda, oh, they're pushing this agenda. Look at the theme and look at the way that it's being expressed, right? You look at some of these articles, wow, talk about some Friday Night Lights, SpaceX Falcon rocket lit up the evening sky over Southern California last night. Oh, it was so beautiful. I mean, this is, space.com. Oh, and then they get comments from people caught off guard and had no idea what was happening first. Must say, it was one of the coolest moments of my life. I mean, this is the mindset people are going to have when they roll out Project Bluebeam. And don't think that they're not going to. Okay? Because this has been a plan for a long time that the CIA's been working on. And it was never a matter of when would the technology be ready for them to do it. Because the technology has been ready. It's always been a question of, when will the masses be dumb enough into accepting it? When will the masses look at this, instead of being fearful and afraid, think that it's cool and awesome? And now is that time period. People look at this stuff, they're not afraid of anything anymore, because they're completely protected by their government. You can't even push somebody or you go to jail for 10 years, okay? But, you can't even say anything or it's hate speech. So everybody's protected. They're not afraid of stuff like this. They feel protected by their government. And when they see stuff like this, they've been indoctrinated through movies that, with aliens and things like that. The theme in a lot of the alien movies is what? Like, oh, can we get along? Can we coexist? Or, oh, don't be afraid of the unknown. And all this kind of crap. And then to see this type of imagery, this type of holographic imagery in the sky, think about all the stuff they've indoctrinated people with over time, with fireworks, with laser shows in the sky. Right? We know they've had the technology, but when people see those types of things, it's an ooh and ah experience for them. So just imagine what this is going to be like when it goes down. And if people don't feel threatened by it, they're going to embrace it. They're going to think it's cool. They're going to be tweeting it, right? Instead of running and going, oh my gosh, there's a problem. All these people, are going to be photographing it, taking pictures in front of it, tweeting it, putting it on Instagram, putting it on Facebook. That's how this is all going to go down. And you could just go through all these articles. There's millions of people who posted about it. There's, all of the people in Southern California, for the most part, took photos of it on their phone, uploaded it all over the place. And all of these mainstream outlets have picked up on it, and they're pushing it out in a positive narrative. Nobody's going, is this safe? Is this even a real rocket? Where are the people who are examining this asking if it's actually a real rocket? Right? They don't have anybody questioning it. They're just going, ooh and ah. They're not going, this looks like a hologram. They're not going, this looks fake. This looks like they're projecting something into the sky. They're just going, how cool, a rocket launch right across Southern California. That's scary to me that people are thinking on that level, that they're embracing stuff like this. Because think about how much more deception is to come and how people are going to eat this stuff up because it looks cool. Because it's a good photo op for them, right, to post on their Facebook account. Because that's the mindset that people have. So when Blue Beam comes down, and like I said, they've had the technology to do it. It's just been a matter of when is the right time to roll it out, where everybody will be on board and accept it. And now is the time, because look how stupid of a society we live in, where everything's a photo op for them. Nothing is, oh, this could be something bad for us. Oh, the government would do something to hurt us. No, they don't believe any of that. They think that we're all crazy people living in our parents' basements and that we have nothing better to do with our time. And all we're trying to do is warn them. So this is the thing that occurred last night, this SpaceX rocket launch, which people are just, drooling over like it's some wonderful thing. You don't hear too many people questioning if it's a hologram or not, if it's even real, because they just come out and they go, no, it's a SpaceX rocket launch. And everybody goes, oh, okay. Nobody goes, where did it land? Where did it, what other stuff? How come it, why was it looking like that? Why was it so clear? Why, to me, it boggles my mind, but at the same time, it doesn't, because I know what a stupid society we live in nowadays. So if you haven't seen it, you can check out video of it. I just put some photographs of it in here, but just more of the same. Be prepared, because at some time Project Bluebeam is going to be rolled out. I thank you for listening to today's show, and I personally think that this was just another test for it. Again, I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.
Oh, man. Yeah, man, that's pretty good.
In what may become one of the biggest child molesting cases ever on record, 7 nursery school teachers were arraigned today on more than 100 counts of child molestation.
The accused include the preschool owner, 76-year-old Virginia McMartin, her daughter, and 2 grandchildren.
Martin Preschool in Manhattan Beach, as it looked when we photographed it discreetly just 3 weeks ago. It started out here in Manhattan Beach looking like an isolated incident. One mother noticed that her young son was having nightmares and difficulty sitting down. Authorities now believe that at least 60 young children were victimized, and that the ultimate number could well be much greater.
Those children, some of them as young as 2 years old, were photographed by the suspects.
Kitty porn was the primary purpose for the alleged sexual abuse of children.
Some children allege that a living creature was sacrificed on the church's altar.
The truth about Satanism is they truly do use blood, and they mix it with urine, and then they also use the real meat, the real flesh. This is what makes Satanism true, and this is what 1,200 molested kids in the city of Manhattan Beach have told the sheriff's department.
I believe the nationwide conspiracy of child predators who are operating daycare centers is a cover for child abuse.
Satanism, devil worship, is being practiced all across the country. We have all types of perversion as part of the ritual.
The children have spoken about this in almost every.
We're made to chew pieces of these children's hearts, pieces of their flesh.
When parents begin to realize these things are really happening, it's not just something out of the dark ages, it will be much more difficult for people to pull these things off. When we hear of ritual sacrifices, our reaction is one of horrific avoidance. We say things like, this only happened in the Middle Ages. It
doesn't mean that children are not telling the truth. This is a call for an uprising, and this is the most important story that nobody knows. We've heard about the Franklin cover-up. We've heard about Pizzagate and Comet Ping Pong. In modern history, ever came closer to exposing the satanic underground that runs and controls our world. In 1983, a mother of preschools known as the McMartin Preschool reported to police that her son had been sodomized by a teacher at the McMartin Preschool, Ray Buckey. Ray Buckey was the grandson of the school founder, Virginia McMartin, and son of Administrator Peggy McMartin Buckey. It was reported that the child had bleeding coming out of his rectum, and he was telling police officers about the sexual abuse that he had endured. This prompted the police department in Los Angeles to send out letters to the parents in the area to talk to their children about potentially being victims of sexual abuse at their preschool. As a result, over 1,200 children came forward and reported that they had been victims of not only sexual abuse, but being forced to perform sexual acts on adults as well. This led to the most expensive trial in the history of the United States legal system, which cost over $15 million and lasted 7 years. This is what prompted the media to come up with the term satanic panic and to use terms such as a witch hunt. As the story started gaining more media coverage, more and more children around the United States of America were coming forward to their parents, reporting that they had been victims of satanic ritual abuse. Not just sexual abuse, satanic ritual abuse involving the mutilation and sacrifice of animals, being forced to drink animal blood as well as human blood, watching babies be decapitated in front of them, performing sexual acts of fellatio on grown men. And as this continued to happen, the media picked up on the story and started calling it crazy, that it couldn't be true, that around the entire country, all of these children suddenly are coming forward, talking about these weird ceremonies involving adults dressed up in cloaks, chanting and singing and performing all types of sexual orgies, human sacrifice, blood rituals on these children and with these children. The world wouldn't believe that this was true, so they dubbed it the satanic panic. But little did they know, and little did the prosecutors know, of just how close they were to revealing the greatest single atrocity in human history, which are these satanic pedophile rings, which nobody knows about and nobody talks about. And just like in the case of O.J. Simpson, when all the evidence pointed towards O.J. being guilty, Johnny Cochran and the Dream Team turned the story into a story about race and not about murder. In this event, it was the same thing that was done. Instead of this being about the children who were abused, it turned into the way that the DA hired the woman who interviewed the children, claiming that they were pressuring the children into telling these stories because some of the children had come forward and said no, that these things didn't happen. And upon being asked the question multiple times, they changed their story. A child abuse prevention center. At the request of prosecutors, CII social worker Key McFarland and her team had been videotaping interviews with the preschoolers.
Using puppets to encourage the children to reveal what happened, the therapists were able to unlock the horrible secrets of the McMartin School.
So the defense used this as an argument, saying that they were leading the witnesses, that they were manipulating these children who were easily manipulated by the Children's Institute International, the CII of Los Angeles, which was a Los Angeles abuse therapy clinic run by Key McFarland. They claim the interviewing techniques used during investigations of the allegations were highly suggestive and invited children to pretend or speculate about supposed events. This became the defense tactic, just like we saw in the O.J. Simpson trial. What happened from there is the media started talking about the McMartin case nationally. Oprah, Geraldo Rivera were talking about satanic ritual abuse. It was beginning to open up a can of worms. But what they were doing was sensationalizing these stories. They were sensationalizing and telling people that this sounded like make-believe, because there were things reported by children, such as doing rituals in front of goat men, men who were dressed up as goats. One of the children on the witness stand was asked to identify some of the people he was involved in these satanic sexual acts with. And upon looking at photographs, he pointed out Chuck Norris, Hollywood actor, as well as another politician.
We were forced to dig up the bodies of dead people.
Yes.
And did the teachers give the kids shovels to dig up the bodies?
Yes.
Permission to approach on it. Now, these are pictures of some men with numbers on them, right?
Yes.
Look at these very carefully, Aaron, and if you see any of the men who went with you to the cemetery, draw a circle around the pictures with the red pencil. Okay. Your Honor, I would like to indicate for the record that Aaron has identified City Attorney James Hahn and actor Chuck Norris.
This caused laughs in the crowd. This caused the media to laugh and say that these kids didn't know what they were talking about, that Chuck Norris, that politicians would be involved in something like this, that these kids didn't know what they were talking about. Suddenly the story turned into that these parents were trying to make a buck and wanted attention and created this satanic panic geared towards sensationalizing and victimizing themselves for attention and for money and publicity. And as we all know now, these Hollywood celebrities who've continued to get exposed over the last 25 years, and these politicians from the Franklin cover-up all the way down to Pizzagate, we see the involvement of very high and powerful people in the United States of America and around the world. We see how much money goes into human trafficking of children and how much is made. It's one of the biggest industries in the world, if not the biggest, along with child pornography. The children at McMartin reported being taken to other locations and being photographed, performing games where they were forced to take their clothes off and allow the adults to take pictures of them. The children testified that they were taken underground in tunnels. No investigation was done looking into the underground tunnels because they had been filled in. And conveniently for the defense team, the school was burnt twice during the trial in attempts to burn it to the ground. But instead of looking underground and trying to dig up these tunnels, the kids claim that they were being transferred through to an airport, claiming that they had been flown up into the mountains, claiming that they had seen Ray Bucky actually levitate in front of them. All of these stories became sensationalized by the media, thinking that these children all around the country all had this crazy imagination about Satan and druids and watching animals be killed.
They were taken by the teachers to car washes, to mortuaries, to cemeteries, flown in an airplane to Palm Springs. Where did Peggy Ann touch you on your body?
On my dick.
Did you have to touch Peggy Ann?
Yes.
Where?
On her boobs.
Did you have to touch any other part of her body besides her boobs?
Her puss.
Did you see Ray do anything to Peggy Ann?
He would put his dick in her puss.
Did you see Ray do anything to the animals at school?
He would cut the ears off the rabbits.
Did Ray say anything while he was doing that to the rabbits?
He said it would happen to our parents if we told any of our secrets.
Did the teachers take you any other place outside?
To Harry's mom.
What happened?
They took us to the sword room and touched us on our dicks and took pictures.
Did you go anyplace else besides the market?
To a church. St. Cross Church.
What happened at the church?
They took us down the aisle, and on the altar they put animals like birds and rabbits and chopped them to pieces.
Who is they, Jonathan?
I saw people wearing black costumes and with ropes around their waist. And it would look really scary, and sometimes they have devil suits on.
Devil suits?
Yeah. A little four-string rabbit one.
What else are you going to stop?
November 1890.
Face your fear. There we go. You're going to help us to catch? Who are you going to help us to catch?
All the policemen, all the social services.
Speak up.
All the shopkeepers, all the cafes, all the pizza McDonald's.
Who did you mention just now? Who catch what?
Kafkas.
Who's Kafkas?
You know, there's people who work at Kafkas.
What is Kafkas?
Papas is the they're for children. They work with the social services.
And what did they do to you?
They do sex. They touch me. They touch me and they plastic queens. They stick it in our bottom.
Who does? Who sticks it in your bottom?
Social services. Everybody does. All of them.
Who?
Everybody.
Does your mother do it?
No.
Do I do it?
No.
Who does it then?
Papa, college, the school.
Parents.
My dad's
Tell me more people. Tell me some more people.
Parents, police.
What about the teachers at school? Who's the main one?
Papa, Mr. Hollings, Mr. Forsyth.
Who's Mrs. Forsyth?
She's the head teacher of our school.
And what does she do?
And she does sex. She got a big building up with a big tattoo on her thigh.
And what happens in the church?
And we do sacrifice and eat the baby.
What do you mean sacrifice and eat the baby?
So we kill the baby and eat it and drink the blood from it.
Is that true, Gabriel?
Yes. And we dance with the skulls.
You what?
We dance with the skulls in the church.
What skulls?
Skull of the baby.
Pardon?
The skulls of the baby.
You dance with the baby skulls?
Yes.
And who kills the babies?
Papa, me, and Lisa. And so,
Who kills the babies?
Papa.
And what, he gets you to help him?
Yes.
Shoot.
So he tells us to hold the hand on the knife, and then he holds his hand on our hand, and then he cuts the baby's head off.
But nobody was talking about satanic ritual abuse. Nobody was talking about how by forcing these children to watch adults murder animals such as horses, dogs, cats in front of them, and then also making them participate in it, that it caused trauma-based mind control on these children, that they were threatened by these adults, told that if they told anyone about these things, that they would do the same thing to them and their families. The reason that so many children ended up coming forward is because they felt safe and protected hearing about other children come forward. It triggered a mass awakening where these kids didn't fear that they were alone, where they were hiding these things in their head. They felt comfortable. They felt safe telling their parents about this now because they heard other children talking about it. Parents were asking their children if any weird things were going on at school, and they were openly telling them about it because they weren't afraid anymore. The trauma that they were put through is what caused them in the first place not to come forward with these allegations. But nobody talks about that because nobody believes in trauma-based mind control, even though we know our government has been using it for quite a long time. Even though we know that trauma-based mind control goes back to the Book of the Dead in ancient Egypt, the same book that these Satanists study and use. Eventually, the trial started becoming a mess because the focus, like I said earlier, was on the interviews with the children because they were using naked dolls and showing the adults the sexual positions that they were put in by the teachers at McMartin as well as other people who were dressed up as druids. Eventually, 5 of the 7 people accused were acquitted, but charges were still pending against Ray Bucky and his mother, Peggy McMartin Bucky, who was called a spiritual woman. During the trial, George Freeman was called as a witness and testified that Ray Bucky had confessed to him while sharing a cell that he had sodomized children using oil, baby oil, and KY, lubrication. Eventually, his testimony was dismissed because Mr. Freeman had committed perjury in other criminal cases. And this is what you get when you get a DA and you get people who don't believe in satanic ritual abuse, who don't believe that there's Satanists and cults operating underground in our world. They went to the school and they looked around and they said, we don't see any bones on the tables. We don't see any blood on the tables. What are these kids talking about? How could they have been locked up in certain rooms when these rooms don't exist? Because they didn't look underneath the school. The dirt had been filled in conveniently. And it goes to show you people who are unequipped and unaware of SRA, of the occult, of these Satanists who run amok on our society, who have been using, mutilating, and devouring children for centuries. These people who aren't aware of it or refuse to believe that it's real are part of the problem. That's how these people get away with these things. Now, we know they control the courts. We know they control the media as well, and they can manipulate the masses into thinking this stuff's not real. But we know that it's real, and it's been going on. And this trial was the closest thing ever to waking up an entire world who was sound asleep. But it's been covered up. You can't find many testimonies online. You can't find many of the news clips online unless you find propaganda that makes the Buckies look like they were the victims in this case, that makes satanic ritual abuse look like a crazy conspiracy theory known as satanic panic, the same thing that the Satanists use now to continue to deflect attention off of these things. It's a trigger word, just like conspiracy theory is a trigger word, just like fake news is a trigger word. They can attach it to anything, and they can get the masses to roll their eyes because they've been conditioned and programmed with these words to believe that these are things that are not real. Another interesting thing to note during the trial is that when Ray Bucky took the stand, guess what was found out about Ray Bucky? Ray Bucky's fascination with pyramids. Ray Bucky's studying of the pyramids, how he had a hat that was shaped like a pyramid that he wore on his head, just like Aleister Crowley wore, that he hung over his bed. Of course, when the DA brought this up in his bizarre fascination with pyramids and some of these conventions that he was flying to, where he was learning and communicating with others that were into black magic and mysticism.
Let's talk about pyramids again. Are these your books?
Yes.
You think it's normal for a man your age to believe in pyramids?
Well, I laugh about it now.
You laugh about it now, but you weren't laughing about it then.
No, I guess I wasn't.
You see an item on this table called a radon?
Yeah, but that's just what it's called. It has nothing to do with me.
That's not what I asked you. Isn't it true that a radon is supposed to have 40 times the effectiveness of a regular pyramid?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation as to the wattage of the radon.
Now, what is this? It's a pyramid hat. A pyramid hat. Like this. It's backwards.
Mr. Bucky, is it possible that pyramid power drove you to molest children?
No.
Is it possible that pyramid power blanked out your mind so you forgot horrible events, like molesting children?
No.
The defense and the people in attendance started laughing as if it was a joke because they're not understanding of what this is all about. They don't understand Aleister Crowley's teachings because all of this stuff has been hidden. And they hear things like this and they can use humor to deflect attention off of children who were ritually abused, forced to drink animal blood, forced to be involved in the sacrificing of children, raped, molested, forced to perform sexual acts on grown-ups. But no, the attention continues to be deflected off of the severity, just like we see today, just like we see right now going on around our world. There's Pizzagate, we've all heard about that, but no victims have come forward in Pizzagate. I hear people say Pizzagate's the biggest thing that's ever happened, it's going to blow everything open. This was the biggest thing that ever happened, McMartin. That could have potentially blown the doors down, but it was covered up. Police who were involved in the case were reportedly also involved in these satanic sexual rings. The story was covered up, and now you can't find boo on it. The only things out there are stories that portray the Buckies as victims. But thankfully, there was a man, Ted Gunderson, who I've talked about many times, who was a former head of the FBI in Los Angeles, who came forward in between Bucky's two trials, because when Bucky and Peggy McMartin got off, there was a second trial trying to convict Ray Bucky, and Ted Gunderson went to the location of where the McMartin preschool was and excavated it, brought in professionals to dig. What they found was that the dirt had been filled in. It was not the same dirt that was originally there. So they dug and they pulled out the dirt that was different from the natural dirt that was there, and they found underground tunnels. They found plates with the pentagram drawn on it. They found bones of animals, and they found tunnels that led to an airport. When Ted Gunderson investigated this, he found that the children had been flown up to a specific location in the mountains. And conveniently, that location had burned to the ground. But what they found there were all types of satanic writings and drawings all over the walls and all over the left ground, as well as the altars that were found there. Satanic altars, the same things that these children reported on, the same thing that got ignored in this trial. Gunderson tried to present this evidence to the DA and to others, and they refused to accept it and told them to stay out of the case.
The McMartin case broke in the early 1980s. The children claimed that after they were dropped off by their parents at this preschool in Manhattan Beach, California, they were involved in various ceremonies, including ceremonies in a chamber underneath the school. They claimed there were tunnels under the school. They claimed they were molested under the school. They claimed there were children that were sacrificed, satanic type ceremonies, adults in robes chanting without any clothes underneath, and candles, the whole 9 yards. The authorities went out in 1985, claimed they looked for evidence of the tunnels. The kids said, in addition to the tunnels, that they were flown up into the mountains, Crestline in particular, or at least two of the mountains. They didn't name Crestline, they were by jet airplanes. So I did some checking on my own. Flip it. And as a result, in the early April 1991, I gained access to the property. And from the access, I hired archaeologist, Dr. Gary Stickle, at UCLA. He brought in a team of individuals, professionals, and we dug for tunnels under the school. Whereas the authorities could not find the tunnels and subsequently stated that the children were hallucinating, there's nothing to it. We found the tunnels ourselves. And this is, these are, Sue, I think we're kind of out of order there. Can you kind of watch me and we can, Sue? I mean, Bryce, can you kind of watch me? We could. Huh? Well, they were in order. Okay, this is an example of the school. We went out and dug it up and went down and looked into the cross of the dirt. What happens is when you go take a cross section straight down, you can see foreign dirt that has been filled into the tunnels. Keep going, sir. That's the entrance of the tunnel under the dog west classroom. Keep going, sir. Now, the interesting fact here is that these avocado roots were live. There was a dead avocado root over here, which meant that the entrance to the tunnel, there was a 9-foot entrance that had been cut. That's so. Keep going, sir. Upside down. Other way. Yeah, keep going. Other way. That was the concrete. Oh, I keep going around. That's it. That was the arch between classroom 3 and classroom 4. Is actually the arch, and that was the tunnel that went through there. This was a pentagram that we found on the plate in the sandbox. We found this Disney bag, plastic Disney bag, copyright 1982, 1983, in the entrance of the tunnel, actually under the foundation. So it could not have been placed there in 1966 when the building was built. It had to be placed there sometime subsequent to 1982. The tunnel's been filled in. Keep going, Sue. This is the live avocado root that I mentioned to you a few moments ago, and some more. And this is a diagram of the tunnel entrance. There's the live avocado root. There's a dead one. And that was, as I said, about 9 feet across. Another diagram. That's where we found the plastic Disney bag right there. Keep going. And that's the diagram of the school. There is the west entrance that I showed you just a few moments ago. That's the chamber. The tunnel went across the 4th classroom to the 3rd classroom. We didn't have time to explore it further. We ran out of money and also time. We were kicked off the lot, actually. There's a tunnel here. The children claimed that they were taken up into the triplex of the next door, the bathroom, the triplex. There was a trap door there, and taken out into the community and prostituted. We found that the trap door in the bathroom of the triplex next door. Keep going, sir. Keep going. The kids said that they were taken up in the mountains. blown up into the mountains. I had an informant that told me that she had an idea where the children were taken. Abandoned satanic site now, by the way. And this was up in Crestline. These are pictures of the site. It was built on the side of the mountain. Just keep going. It was impossible to see it from the street. You could only see it from down below, and it didn't mean anything because it was so many miles away, or from a helicopter or an airplane. You can see the massive size of it. The street was over on the top there, so anybody driving down the street could not have seen what was going on down here. This is, I'm sure, where some of the ceremonies were taking place of the kids who were flown up there. Keep going. It's probably, I don't know what that is. But I think it's about 9 feet across. What would that be, sir? Altar? Okay. It's down in there. It's where the site is. This would be where the street is, so you can see you couldn't see it. Keep going. That's probably, that was an altar we think that was broken, a big stone. 666, that was carved in one of the rocks. There was a large circle with all kinds of writing. I couldn't get up high enough to take it all in and get it all on one picture, or a series of pictures. That was in the dungeon. They had a dungeon with a drop hole. The hole was probably about 2.5 by 3 feet, and it was about 10 feet down. It was below the surface. The ceiling was probably about 8 feet high. I think that's where they killed their captives before they sacrificed them. Some ovens around the property. This is a sign, and you can take the next slide and put it overlay it on top of it. And can you see it there? Oh, turn it around. Turn the overlay around. Yeah, that's it. And this is one of the signs that was there. Can you read that up there, Sue? Yeah, read it out loud. It was a seal of one of the satanic signs. Go ahead, take the next one. And put the overlay on top of it. Armistice Day. Okay, that's all right. Go on to the next slide. Some more of the site. This is looking over the edge. This would have been where the abandoned satanic site was. Over the edge, you can see that there's no way that you could see it from down below. This is the road that goes down to San Bernardino. These are the 8 basic satanic holidays. We have one coming up, Halloween, very shortly. Witches celebrate the dead. And the next calendar is a more detailed list of the holidays, satanic holidays during the year. Let's flip them over real fast. Tells in detail about the purpose of each holiday. Sexual climax and so forth, blood and so forth. Okay. Now, during the McMartin case, at the time that it broke, I called the U.S. attorney, not the U.S. attorney, but the district attorney, and I told him, I talked to Leo Rubin, who was the prosecutor. I said, I think I know where the children were taken up in the mountains, and I'd be glad to take you up there and maybe have the children go. Just turn it off a minute. Have the children go up and maybe they can identify it. She said she wasn't interested. During the second trial, the first trial, Ray Bucky had a hung jury. Second trial, we discovered the tunnels under the school. I called the district attorney. They came out, a fellow named Perez, investigator, said he wasn't interested. There were tunnels there. He wanted to argue with the archaeologists. They could have used the tunnels in the second trial. They didn't. Why? The children identified an actor, household name politicians, professional baseball players, professional football players. In my opinion, it was a major cover-up.
This is how they operate. This is how they get away with stuff. These types of stories are the most important stories that have ever happened in our lifetime. Because these are the stories that expose what's really going on. That politicians, that celebrities are involved with trafficking children. That they use businesses such as nurseries as fronts. Now they no longer really can use nurseries after this trial happened. Because all of these nurseries began getting examined with a microscope by people. They've created laws where parents could come in at any time into these nurseries anytime they wanted to see what was going on with their children. Now we see the fronts as laundromats, as pizza parlors, as restaurants, as other businesses around the country. They're used as fronts, and they use symbols to show and communicate exactly what these businesses are so that these pedophiles and these Satanists who control our society can be aware of where this is going on in their town so they know and can be involved. I urge people to share this video and share this story with others out there so that they're aware. This is the stuff that should be taught in schools. This is the stuff we should still be talking about. But they won't mention this in the news unless they're saying, oh, you mean the satanic panic? And this is exactly why Anton LaVey's church was set up. It was set up before this happened, but now we see the Satanic Temple and the Satanic churches used as fronts. They are used as fronts to deflect attention off of these things, to attack anyone who comes forward with talking about SRA, satanic ritual abuse. And the masses have bought it hook, line, and sinker. And we, as followers of Christ, or just citizens of the United States of America, should demand that proper investigations are done when children come forward speaking about people dressed in cloaks, watching animals be murdered and mutilated, babies decapitated, forced to eat fetuses, all of this stuff. We should demand proper investigations are done. And that this illusion that the children are making up these stories, and all of these kids around the world in this specific case who came forward were all making it up. They all just happen to have crazy imaginations about druids, about Satanism, about pedophilia, stuff that they couldn't even comprehend. We demand justice. The children are not making these stories up because we know that this is what they do. We know that these people worship Aleister Crowley, the man who calls himself the Beast. We know that this has been going on since Babylon and it hasn't stopped. What has changed is that they've done this stuff in secrecy for centuries, and they would get cast out by Christians. They would get hung, they would get killed, they would get exposed time after time. They created this matrix as a safety net for them. They use mind control to manipulate people into falling into believing in all this fake stuff going on around the world, such as the left versus the right, such as what's going on in the Middle East, such as these are the people we should stereotype, such as the race war. All of these distractions, all of these fear-based things that they create are all there to put people's perceptions of what the world is into a box. They never hear about this stuff because they don't want this stuff to ever get out there. So when people like me talk about it, they go, you're out of your mind. You're out of control. Where's the evidence? Where's the proof? How many children need to come forward and claim to be victims of satanic ritual abuse? Why would they do it? What would their intention be? To come forward and lie at the age of 3 years old that they were molested and were involved in drinking animal blood and human sacrifice. The same thing we saw at Hampstead with these children who came forward. It's the same story time and time again. But because the masses have been conditioned through movies to think that that stuff is fictional and crazy, and they've been triggered with words such as satanic panic, the truth can never get out there because people cannot wrap their head around this stuff. Their heads will explode if they realize what was really going on. And when we do bring this up to people, they just shake their head because it's too much information for them to comprehend. They can't handle it. So they dismiss it as crazy or a conspiracy because they don't have the time or the energy to investigate it. But we need to have the time and the energy to investigate these things because every single day, children who are being abducted and molested, and of course there's cases where there are just sick individuals who are pedophiles and perverts, but the large amount of trafficking going on revolves around the occult and Satanism. These children are used in satanic rituals. They are locked in cages. They are locked in boxes, forced to sleep with snakes and other reptiles. These people who do this are soulless. But us as Christians, we need to make people aware of this. And I refuse to sit back and not go after Satanism, not go after the Satanists out there who come across as a front and go, oh, we're just atheists. Oh, we don't do this kind of stuff, because it's a lie. And anyone with discernment should be able to see through their lies. I hope you found this information helpful. If you're somebody who follows the channel, whether you like the channel or not, I urge you to please share this information with people so people can become aware of these things. Because there's children's lives at stake every single day as a result of these Satanists who ritually abuse them, who have no soul, who look at these kids as if they're nothing but rag dolls. And it's an absolute shame, and it breaks my heart, and it should break your heart too. I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.
During the past decade, an epidemic of ritual crime has swept our nation at an alarming rate. Law-abiding citizens report satanic crimes in every state, and the number of cases investigated by police continues to rise. Well-organized satanic groups are creating a reign of death and destruction, which cannot be ignored. Inmate interviews conducted by Professor Al Carlisle of the Utah State Prison System show that lawbreakers are heavily involved in the occult. There may be as many as 60,000 human sacrifices per year in this country, according to Professor Carlisle, and there is a distinct correlation, he says, with these human sacrifices and the high number of missing persons. This is because some satanic groups dispose of their victim by dismembering the body and cremating the remains, eliminating any possibilities for identification. Members of satanic and occult groups come from all walks of life. Many are highly intelligent individuals. Michael A. Aquino, senior initiate and founder of the Temple of Set in San Francisco, is also a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. He's received a top-secret security clearance to attend the National Defense University in Washington, D.C. Anton Sandor LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan, was once a circus lion tamer. These charismatic leaders, and many like them, seek out others who have a high degree of intelligence. Some cult leaders prey upon emotionally unstable people. Examples are Jim Jones of the Guyana Massacre and Charles Manson. With his Manson family, he created a reign of terror and death. Unsuspecting young people are drawn to the occult because of various influences, including breakdown of the family unit, lack of closeness, negative lifestyles, self-centeredness, and a me-oriented society full of throwaway and latchkey kids. Adolescents are ripe for satanic or occult involvement because of their maturing nature and developing sexuality. They feel a need to belong to a peer group structure, to be accepted or identified, and stand
Absolutely,
out among
this is
their
a really
associates
good
and
video.
friends. Teenagers also tend to be impatient. They desire quick answers and the ability to cause instant changes. This eventually leads to rebellion against parental authority and social standards. Some young people are attracted to the occult by seemingly harmless pleasures, such as games and music. They start by participating in fantasy role-playing games, like Dungeons and Dragons. Others are drawn into Satanism by heavy metal rock music. These heavy metal groups flaunt satanic symbols on their album covers and anti-Christian satanic messages in their music. Their songs promote the demonic themes of death, doom, violence, and the rejection of morality and religion. Heavy metal groups and solo artists such as Slayer, Ozzy Osbourne, Motley Crue, Venom, and AC/DC have sent heavy metal record sales skyrocketing. Members of satanic or occult groups share common traits, such as an interest in old occultic forms of religion and worship. The desire to perform certain bizarre acts that society condemns. Belief in the ability to control magic for personal gain. Mind control, or the power to force others to act out whatever is commanded of them. And the access to perform perverted sex acts, such as homosexuality, bisexuality, sodomy, bestiality, and necrophilia. Not all satanic or occultic groups engage in illegal activities. However, many do, and some of their criminal acts include trespassing, vandalism, burglary, animal mutilations, trafficking and selling of illegal drugs, kidnapping, physical, mental, and sexual child abuse, rape, and murder. All of these acts are carried out in the name of Satan. Therefore, the participants have no remorse after having committed them. The satanic philosophy teaches that personal pleasure is the ultimate achievement, even at the expense of others. There are 4 different symbols which refer to the mark of the beast, or Satan. 3 6s in a row. 3 6s facing inward of each other. 3 Fs in a row, F being the 6th letter of the alphabet. Also, 3 circles interlinked with each other. The sign of the horns is a hand signal given among members of the occult. Teenagers who flock to heavy metal concerts flash this sign often. The swastika, or broken cross, originally represented the 4 winds, 4 seasons, and the 4 points of the compass. Today, Satanists use it to symbolize the elements of nature turning against itself, to create a world out of harmony. The upside-down cross is a blaspheme of the Christian cross. This symbol is often found at satanic ritual sites and in schools and churches which have been vandalized and desecrated. The cross of confusion is an ancient Roman symbol, questioning the existence or validity of Christianity. It is often seen on road signs and bridges, as well as public buildings. The inverted pentagram, also called the Baphomet, represents 2 things. 1, man's denial of God and acceptance of Satan. The other, the goat's head, which symbolizes man's lust for the flesh. Sometimes you may see the goat's head superimposed within the pentagram. The hexagon, also referred to as the seal of Solomon, is frequently used by many young people in the occult world. A triangle may vary in size, but it is generally inscribed on the ground, and is the place where a demon would appear in conjured rituals. The circle symbolizes eternity and protection from evil. Other symbols of Satan are the letters ACDC, which stand for Antichrist, Devil Child. Horns and tail added to any letter of the alphabet. A lightning bolt indicating heaven to hell string, and occult numbers 3, 6, 9, and 13, which may also appear in Roman numeral form.
I am the sayer of the law. Here come all that meet you to learn the law. Say the words. Learn the law.
Satanists and occultists celebrate several rituals and ceremonies each year. You should remember these important dates because they will coincide with numerous reports of abductions, missing persons, and ritual crimes. To help determine if someone you know is drawn to Satanism, review these levels of satanic involvement. The fun and games level may include conversations, ego boosts, and possibly some initial interest in the subject. This level also includes the fantasy role-playing games, which could lead into the second level, referred to as the dabblers, a half-belief in Satanism or some serious interest. It is at this second level where warning signs of satanic behavior may be apparent, such as a sudden, bitterly antagonistic attitude towards family and religion, a drastic decline in academic performance, a reclusive behavior pattern, and listening exclusively to heavy metal rock music, almost to the point of addiction. When one or more of these warning signs are evident, you should look further for ritual items such as a pentagram or other satanic symbols, black or red robes, a decorative dagger or knife, a chalice or goblet, black candles, a personal diary with a black cover, which is called a Book of Shadows, and copies of publications such as the Satanic Bible and the Satanic Rituals, and possibly a small makeshift altar. If you discover items such as these, experts advise you contact your local law enforcement agency at once. Joining a satanic or occult group will, in time, lead into the no-turning back stage, usually involving criminal activities. People at this level believe that violent or criminal action is necessary to achieve their goals and are prone to violent crime. These highly destructive Satanists make families their primary targets. They believe that the breakdown of the family unit will guarantee the destruction of goodness, morality, and civilization, and that is when the nightmare begins for decent people everywhere. For some, the nightmare is over. They are the victims of satanic crime. Overcoming this evil begins with every family. Parents must provide attention and love, protecting their children from corrupt influences, keeping the lines of communication open, and insisting on proper education. When this is accomplished, you can be confident that children will grow into happy, well-adjusted, and productive citizens, free from satanic and occultic influences.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. Listen, I've tried to put this off. I tried not to do a video about it. I know I get messages a lot of times if I talk about some of this stuff going on, showing that people are losing their minds, showing people becoming goats, showing people marrying trees, showing people becoming human dragons. The reason I do it is because it's just more proof, especially when it's in the New York Post or other mainstream outlets are talking about it. Not, in the tabloids at the grocery you would see 20 years ago. When it's getting pushed through the mainstream, they're pushing acceptance. They're conditioning people into thinking, oh, okay, this is normal. And this is to desensitize people for the future, right? For adults dating children, for adults marrying pets, dating pets. We already have that kind of freak activity going on. And you can see in these articles, they're desensitizing people because they're going, listen, the person loves this object. It's not a big deal. They're classifying it in categories. This is all the satanic mindset. Because remember, the mindset that they have is do without will. By that, it means everybody can do whatever they want. There is no rules. There is no judgment. There is no non-tolerance. They want you to tolerate everything. And this right here, believe me, I tried not to do a video on it. But it's just sitting in my head. Just how ridiculous this is. A woman has gotten engaged to a 90-year-old chandelier. Now, I know people go, well, it's just a publicity stunt or something like that. I don't really know what kind of publicity you can get out of it. I mean, I would think if somebody came forward announcing their fetish, sexual attraction, and love of chandeliers, that quite possibly that would alarm people out there to contact a mental ward. Why do we have these places with white padded rooms, you ask? I don't know. Well, I do know. Because eventually they're going to be used for us, for Christians, right? We're the crazy ones. We believe in a fairy tale. Yet this woman is marrying and having a relationship with the chandelier. Now, you could see her apartment, okay? This woman changed her name to Liberty because she had an obsession with the Statue of Liberty, Lady Isis, the satanic Statue of Liberty. So that's satanic. She also has the American flag where it's positioned. You can see the upside-down pentagrams, but that's another story for another day. And, of course, this woman happens to be 33 years old. She says she isn't fazed by the whopping 57-year age gap between her and the tarnished light fitting, who she's dubbed Lumiere. I guess after The Thing and Beauty and the Beast, which just shows you how mind control works, folks. I mean, you have to take into consideration, whether this is real or not. It is being reported on by mainstream outlets. So, you could take it and you can say, well, it's not real. I mean, I saw an interview with the woman. She's either a really good actress. I mean, listen, she probably has some trouble dating, which is clear. I mean, just based on a lot of things. But I don't know what you gain out of doing this other than just to push an agenda of acceptance and allowance of everything. Speaking of her wife-to-be, who she spent over $500 shipping over from Europe in 2016, she said, as soon as I saw Lumiere on eBay, I knew immediately that she was the one for me, and it was love at first sight. She was based in Germany, and although I knew it would be tricky to get her home, I knew I needed to find a way to make her mine. I couldn't stop thinking about her and how beautiful she was. We're talking about a chandelier, folks. She has such a beautiful shape, and I can feel really amazing energy coming from her. I mean, look at these pictures. She's kissing the chandelier. She's in bed with a chandelier. Goodness gracious. This is starting to make the people who dress up, these adults who dress up as babies, wearing diapers, sleeping in baby beds, it's starting to make them look normal. Goodness. She said after winning the online auction, Liberty patiently, I mean, this is just ridiculous. I'm reading this directly from the New York Post, by the way, because, listen, Breitbart and other people picked up on it, but people go to the New York Post, like, for real news, and they're only putting this stuff in there because, listen, they're not going, oh, it's going to create a buzz, or people really want to hear that. This is just for tolerance. This is just to make people more desensitized to the insanity of our society. And this leads to, hey, 50-year-old man is dating a 5-year-old niece. Oh, okay. But we already got people marrying chandeliers. Liberty patiently waited for her to turn up, the chandelier, of course, at her Leeds home, turning to her 24 other chandeliers who she claims she has or was in an open relationship with. I mean, are you kidding me? You know, can you just call the New York Post and these outlets and get them to write like any ridiculous story and they'll put it in? I mean, goodness. She said, after buying the chandelier, I patiently waited for it to be imported to the UK. After 6 days of waiting, she was finally in my arms. She had been disassembled for her own safety, but once I put all her pieces together and she settled into her new home, our relationship just went from strength to strength. A friend of mine actually named her Lumiere because of the film Beauty and the Beast, after the candlestick who comes alive. I mean, jeez. Folks, where are the paddy wagons? Last Valentine's Day, I proposed to her to signify our long-lasting love. I hope at some point we'll have a commitment ceremony. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I haven't been engaged before, so it's very new and exciting. Well, no one's surprised you haven't been engaged before, Amanda Liberty, for various reasons. Well, there's plenty of people, I guess, like you out there who have just completely lost their mind. Perhaps due to Lumiere's age, Amanda doesn't... Amanda doesn't take her to bed every night, preferring to snuggle up with another of her fancy light shades called Jewel under the covers. Liberty said, none of my chandeliers are jealous of each other. I mean, this is an article. They understand that I love them all for all their different personalities. For example, I love kissing and cuddling Lumiere, but I sleep with Jewel every night as she is portable and very nice to cuddle. I mean, this is sick. I've always loved the look of chandeliers, and when I saw my first chandelier, Luna, it was love at first sight. You can't control who you fall in love with, and things just went from there. So that's a key term in this entire article. Okay, it's like a trigger sentence. You can't control who you fall in love with, right? We hear that all the time in movies, in books. They always say stuff like that. They use that now to push, homosexuality and things like that. Like two guys who just happen to love, watching the game or whatever. Oh, they're in love because they're friends. Right? I mean, it's just, you can't control who you fall in love with. You can't control not falling in love with a lamp. She said, I spend my spare time restoring old and broken chandeliers from their glory. Oh, what a surprise. Meanwhile, this person somehow has a home or an apartment. I mean, how are the bills being paid here? Who's hiring her? Is her boss seeing this and a little alarmed? Her family want to call somebody? There's institutions out there. She says her dream job would be to work at Buckingham Palace, looking after the grand chandeliers that they have there. But it hasn't always been a light touch that Liberty's craved. This is where the juicy, no, not juicy, but this is where the goal of the article, the mind control part, comes in. As an objectum sexual, yes, sexual. Apparently that's something now. Someone who is sexually attracted to inanimate objects, all sorts of bits and bobs have caught her eye. I didn't see this. Her first relationship was with a drum kit when she was just 14. But as she grew older, her taste developed, and she soon had her eyes on bigger sights. Liberty fell in love with the Statue of Liberty, who she affectionately calls Libby, and has traveled to the U.S. 6 times to gaze longly at the 305-foot-tall monument. Remember, Statue of Liberty, which I've covered, is a satanic, Masonic symbol, statue of Isis. 2010, she even changed her name by deed poll to Liberty to show her commitment to the statue. However, Liberty struggled to have a long-distance relationship with the green woman, who has I can't even believe I'm reading this. She has an 8-foot-long face, and she turned her chandeliers for comfort. Her living room is adorned with memorabilia dedicated to the monument, and she insists that she still loves Libby. Liberty said, people often can't understand that this is just a natural orientation for me, that I can find the beauty in objects and can sense their energy. I want others to see how happy the chandeliers make me and how much they've enriched my life. I am not hurting anyone by entering into a relationship with them. I am simply just following my heart. So there you see the reason that this story was published and picked up as ridiculous as it is. That's why these stories keep coming out in the mainstream. They'll laugh and they'll giggle, right? And they'll kind of make it a little bit satire-like, but they get their bullet points across that they know are trigger sentences that'll stick in people's heads. She's not hurting anyone by entering into a relationship with them, with the object, with the chandelier. Trust me, people will comment on this video. Well, maybe not. I don't know how they'll find it. But if there are people who have commented on some of the other ones and said, let them live their lives. They're talking about a 40-year-old man who's collecting, what is he collecting? For disability. Dressing up as an adult baby wearing a diaper. Off of your tax money, by the way. People are defending the guy like that. Let him do what he wants, man. What do you care? He's not hurting anyone. Right. And that's just how it's going to continue to go. Because when pedophilia and this stuff becomes normalized, oh, come on. The 5-year-old's consenting to this. She wants to be with the 50-year-old. Oh, the animal's not fighting against it. The animal enjoys it. That's all that this stuff is doing. People dating it. I mean, the fact that we live in a world where there's such a thing called objectum sexual. I mean, whatever just happened to good old heterosexuality? I mean, I'm attracted to women. I don't know if any other men are anymore. Seems like people are more attracted to, objects, apparently. Women are attracted to objects. And people marrying chandeliers. I don't know what's next. What more absurdity can you find? Objectum sexual. This is leading, and this is the definition of the do without will mindset. But this is leading, and this is here, because of those trigger sentences that they continue to use repetition with and beat into people's heads, right? I want others to see how happy the chandeliers make me, so it makes her happy. If it makes her happy, then it goes on to say, I'm not hurting anyone by entering into a relationship. So people go, if it makes her happy, what business is it of yours? You're hateful, you're a bigot. She's not hurting anyone. Accept everything, folks. Tolerate everything. The do without will mindset in 2017, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, you got a woman sleeping in a bed, licking a dirty chandelier. And we're supposed to think and accept this as normal behavior because she's happy. Yet there are thousands of institutions waiting for people like this. I thought they were built for people like this, but clearly they were built for us. We're the ones who are going to end up in there as people like this roam free. She has an engagement ring, by the way, with the chandelier. They have an engagement ring that she hung on the chandelier. Kid you not. Whew. Welcome to the world, folks. Remember, when stuff like this comes out, obviously it's my chat. I can cover whatever I want. The point is that I see it in the mainstream. I say, why is this there? Because 20 years ago, this is the kind of crap that would be sitting at the grocery store that no one would buy. It'd be like, UFO lands on on somebody's head and it, eats raisins. What? I mean, California raisins come to life. Like, ridiculous stuff. And now you're seeing this kind of stuff put into mainstream media, and people go, well, it's because they're trying to get clicks, they're trying to get views, they're trying to get people to read the article. That's not why. It's there because it's all fits into this acceptance of everything stuff. They're desensitizing people. Of course, regular people, when they see this article, are going to laugh, and they're going to go, oh, this is just stupid, right? But as time goes on, how much more desensitized, you're going to see, oh, woman marries a tree. Well, we already saw a woman marry a tree. Okay, now a woman's marrying a chandelier. Next, a woman's going to marry a cardboard box. People are going to go, I've seen it all already. What's the big deal? Because they've been desensitized to it. So that's why this stuff is out there. Do without will right in our faces. I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families. This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I wanted to talk about characters that are placed specifically in TV shows and in movies, which is done in a psychological effort, in some ways to discredit, in other ways to influence. Now, we've seen gay characters planted in almost every single television sitcom. They're planted in almost every single movie, from shows like Will and Grace to Modern Family, Glee, right? They'll always have a gay character there. That was how they started to get everyone into accepting the LGBT, into being okay with it. Soon we'll be seeing trans characters placed in all these films. We already are, but it'll become more and more normal. And that's how they influence people. They plant seeds. Subliminally, they're accepting of this. The characters are usually entertaining or funny or play on the emotional strings of people. The next thing you know, all of these agendas get pushed and passed through TV shows like this. So whatever they want to do, they know that they can use this because people think that they're living vicariously through these shows, living with these characters. They know these characters, just like they think they know these actors because they follow them on Instagram. They think they're friends with them. That's how psychological this operation has gotten. But another character that we always see implanted in these shows is the crazy conspiracy character. From movies like Pixels to Independence Day to commercials like the ones I've talked about on this channel, Pizza Hut having a conspiracy character, Progressive Insurance, right? And there's a common theme with these characters. Not only do they act kooky and crazy, almost like their eyes bugging out of their head, they try to plant the seeds that anybody who questions anything out there is going to be wired as if they're on crack or if they're on too much caffeine, speaking, rambling, crazy, right? And they plant the seeds of what else? That these characters usually are living with their grandparents or living in their parents' basement, right? They'll have all these things on the walls, which they'll always show you, just like they do, you know, but this character in Pixels, he's got the Loch Ness Monster from Aliens to Sasquatch, right? And he's speaking fast and he's saying all sorts of crazy things. To Mel Gibson's character in Conspiracy Theory with Julia Roberts. This is to plant seeds. This is why it's so hard for people in our shoes to wake other people up, because they have already created this image in people's heads of what somebody is who questions the government, who thinks that something's going on. And instead of getting people to understand what the actual term conspiracy means, or what a conspiracy theory is, in fact, you know, talking about the government and corruption and why they would do these things, instead people automatically will link these types of questioning, or this type of questioning, to things such as UFOs, Sasquatch, Loch Ness Monster, things that make us all look insane when we're asking normal, basic questions, or pointing out obvious flaws in some of these fake stories and these fake false flag events that continue to get played out through the media. So instead of actually looking at these things, these people have already had a trigger planted in their head, right? Through characters like this. They've already created a stereotype about who we're supposed to be and what we are, right? We're all living in our parents' basements. We're all in our parents' garage. Our walls are covered in newspaper articles. We think that they're, you know, they'll bring up things like JFK, and they'll bring up all sorts of conspiracies that are out there, and then they'll link it to all sorts of other insane things, right? That's what they want. That's how they've, through these films and these TV shows, they have stereotyped us. So then the masses out there see this character. They don't realize that it's just repetitively being done throughout all of these films, that they're deliberately showing the conspiracy guy to have the same character traits. He's nuts, he's paranoid, he's schizophrenic, he's living at home, he's, you know, just yelling and rambling about things. So people have that seed planted in their head. Then when you bring stuff up to them, it automatically will trigger that stereotype. And they'll go, oh, conspiracy theories, and they'll dismiss it. Okay, they have worked endlessly to create this stereotype because they know through mind control, they know through repetition and constantly showing these characters then all they need to do is use a trigger word like conspiracy theorist or conspiracy theory, and then all of these thoughts will fly through people's heads. They won't remember seeing some of these movies, but they'll remember the character and the character traits because their brain processes those things. Then we see all this stuff on these late night shows, right? We see Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, all these guys wearing tinfoil hats, celebrities, tinfoil hats, right? Something else that's insanely over the top. Oh, you're a tinfoil hat wearer because you're questioning the government. Oh my goodness. Oh, you're a tinfoil hat wearer because you believe in chemtrails. All stuff that people should be looking into, all stuff that people should be questioning if they had any sense of, being able to think on their own and think independently, but they don't. And this is why. Because the television isn't only programming and passing along mainstream agendas and things like that. Subliminally, you're being programmed into accepting of characters, right? Look at all these shows that have planted, Lucifer characters. We have the show Lucifer. We have all these other, The Omen, American Horror Story, right? They're planting all these seeds of what's to come and the other side and making demonic possession and witches and everything look cool. Planting seeds making Christians look like fools, right? Some of these other stupid shows that they have out there, or mocking Jesus in skits and things like that. This is just a very easy way for them to subliminally plant these seeds, and that's why it's so hard to break people from their programming. Because even if the person has never looked into any of these things that we talk about, they don't look into chemtrails, they don't look into the fluoride in the water. I know I talk a lot about the satanic covens and the satanic the secret societies that practice all of black magic and all this stuff with human sacrifice. I know that's an extreme for people to jump into when they first wake up, because I understand it's going to take time for them to peel the layers back to get to a point where they can grasp, because of all the programming, that people are really doing this stuff. And that's why they have conditioned people with this type of programming. So if you were to go up to somebody and you were to say, hey, there's people practicing black magic, they're committing human sacrifice, their heads would explode. They can't even comprehend it because they've been programmed and desensitized so much and conditioned so much, they would automatically just go, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. Boom. And then people go, well, why are they saying that? Why won't they at least think or look into it? Because of the subliminal repetition that's been used. And again, like I said earlier in the video, the gay characters that we've constantly seen, they've been planted into these shows for a reason, into acceptance, right? They're lovable characters. They're funny. Subliminally, over time, it just became normal to be gay. People don't even realize, when you talk about somebody who is, into that, and people go, well, they're born that way and stuff. Well, how come their voices change and their mannerisms change and all this stuff? See these characters and how they act. The men are acting like women. They're not just like, hey, I like men. They're, literally, they have these feminine characteristics. They talk like a girl. They change their voice. They don't realize that all this stuff is mental. It's like if you spend a year in another country, you're going to start talking. Even if you can't speak the language over there, you're going to start, using the accent in a sense, right? It's like if you're over in Italy for a little while, for a year, say, and you never learn how to speak Italian, you're still going to use that accent. Say, yes, spaghetti, right? You don't even realize you're doing it. It's subliminally, you're just going along with it. You're speaking as they're speaking, right? So these are all things that they do through movies and television, but they deliberately plant these conspiracy characters in there. These tinfoil hat wearers living in their parents' basement, and you're seeing it done consistently through repetition, which tells you, one, they're scared because they need to roll out more and more, more and more characters on TV, more and more characters in movies, and stereotype them as insane because they're worried that too many people are waking up. That's why Colbert continues to beat a dead horse with this. None of these characters, and if you listen to even the stuff on Colbert, no one's laughing in the audience. It's minimal laughter. It's not hilarious. The characters in these movies and commercials, it's not funny. Even if you are asleep, nobody's finding it funny. They're just like, what? What's stupid marketing? But they don't realize that they don't care if they laugh or not. They're just trying to plant seeds in people's heads, and that's exactly what they're doing, and it's working. So you'll continue to see these characters subliminally put in films and television for this purpose. Then again, the trans agenda, which is being pushed heavily, we'll start seeing those characters over and over through repetition to get more and more people into accepting it, to being desensitized from it and by it, and then into thinking, wow, this is normal, this is okay, this is just regular now. Because they've seen it over and over and over, and they've been told over and over and over that it's okay, that it's cool, that you're supposed to accept it, that's how it works. And you'll see this continue to be ramped up with conspiracy characters, and that is one of the reasons it's so hard to wake people up. For those of you who always ask, I try to wake up my mom, I try to wake up my dad, I try to wake up my girlfriend or my boyfriend or whoever. It's because they don't even know that they've been programmed into automatically, when they hear this type of stuff, going, conspiracy theorist, or when they hear the word conspiracy, an alarm goes off. It's a trigger word. They automatically will dismiss it because they've been trained to, without even knowing it. I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.